So today I did something that I've been wanting to do for years and years. I launched an initiative called Rising Tide, the Value in Mentoring Others. And it's all about getting big, important people who have risen to the top in broadcasting to join me for a Zoom with hundreds of people who are getting started so that they can ask questions of the big guy and hopefully avoid some of the hurdles and pratfalls that tripped us up along the way. So I kicked it off with Gayle King because Gayle, and I love her. Plus, she's just that person who is so pure and honest and authentic that it's really served her well all the way along her career. And she's had a career that a lot of people didn't know about. Long time in local news, 18 years at a Hartford station as local anchor, number of other local stations along the way. And then this phenomenal experience as an editor at Oprah Magazine, and then, of course, on CBS Mornings, where she is now. And so the questions came in from the audience, and Gayle, nothing was off limits. Love that. So I wanted to play some of it for you, especially the thing about the R. Kelly interview and how she was able to maintain that kind of calm, because anybody else in my business, me included, would have freaked out a bit while R. Kelly was, coming at you fisted like that. But she had an amazing answer for it. So take a look at this little back and forth between us.
How do you manage to keep your emotions maintained when reporting on heartbreaking news? And I'm going to add to that, how do you keep your emotions contained when it gets real in front of you? Like with R. Kelly, you were so incredibly poised. I don't know anybody who could have pulled it off the way you did. How did you do it, and what's in you that makes you capable?
Well, I think part of that comes with experience. If that had happened to me early in my career, I think I would have been very rattled, no question. I would have been very rattled by it, but I felt very well prepared. I also knew that I wasn't done with the interview. I still had more questions for Mr. Kelly, also known as Robert. I had more questions for him. And I looked at interviews with him, and I saw that when he got rattled or he didn't like something, he would get up and leave the room. And so my intention was to do everything I could to make sure he didn't leave. And so if I responded in kind to him the way he responded to me, the interview would have been over. If I had tried to comfort him or I had tried to soothe him, the interview would have been over. So I just thought, let me make no sudden moves, look up, look down, look up, look down. And I was looking at him and looking at the chair, looking at him, looking at the chair, letting him know that whatever this is, whatever you're doing here, I'm not going anywhere. And he saw that. And I didn't know him. I didn't know R. Kelly, but I never thought that I was in danger, even though he was very angry. I didn't think that I was in danger.
I thought you were. I mean, I watched you. I thought she's not even flinching, and he's sort of coming at her physically.
No, that's the thing. I didn't think he was coming at me. He was mad, and with every word, he was emphasizing every word with his fist. I thought he could accidentally hit me, which would have hurt. I was a little nervous about that, but I didn't think that he would ever intentionally hit me. I called the next day to check on him with his team, and they said that he was actually appreciative and was thanking me for giving him a chance to show his passion and his pain. He was not even angry about it. He was not even angry about it. I think you were watching somebody, in my opinion, who became unglued in that moment. People said, oh, he was acting, he was playing you. I didn't feel that at all.
So there are a few other questions that our audience had for Gayle. If you follow Gayle on Instagram, she's just so out there. She will wear a bathing suit and she will step on the scale, something that women in television have never done and still really struggle with doing. But to Gayle, no biggie. And so it was great when some of the questions came in about bosses and confines and being a woman in broadcasting. And so here's how this back and forth went. Take a look.
Quick question before I get to the participants, and that is, how do you navigate bosses that are difficult?
I think, knock on wood, I've been pretty fortunate. I haven't had anybody that I thought was really outrageous. I can remember in Connecticut, after I had my first baby, favorite daughter, Kirby, and when you get pregnant, you tend to gain weight. And when you have the baby, I took it as a license to eat. So I gained quite a bit of weight. And I went into his office because he said he wanted to talk to me about something. And it's not like I was looking at his desk, Ashleigh. but there's something about your name catches your eye. You know, if it's written down on a piece of paper, I swear to God, I wasn't looking at his desk, but there were papers there. I happened to glance down and I saw my name. And I thought, my name, what is it? And next to my name, it said Gayle's butt. And I thought, now, what is this what could this possibly mean? And so he's frickin' back and forth. You're doing such a great job. You were so happy you had a baby and Kirby, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, but, you know, I do have to say, Gayle, you know, when they take those wide shots on the side and you're at the end, your butt hangs over your chair. So do you think that maybe you could, you know, scoot in a little bit? I didn't even know what to say to that. I mean, so What did I say? Okay. You know,
But we did.
Nowadays, I would have a different answer.
Right.
I would have but back then, all I could say was, okay. And I walked out of the office going, what the hell did he just say?
And then with, you know, age comes wisdom, because I've been at this game 34 years and Gayle's been at it a long time too. And she and I laughed about some of the things we thought were normal back then and would not stand for today. But not even one, many of the participants, and there were a couple hundred, they were a little older too, starting in this career. And I got this great question from one of the journalists in the audience who had started a little later in her life and wanted some advice from Gayle. Have a look.
So this one says, I started my career as a reporter 2 days after my 40th birthday. What advice do you have for someone starting in this field later in life rather than starting early in their 20s? Great question.
I think that is a great question, because I got my job at CBS. I was close to 60 when I got that job. And who would have thought, you know, who would have thought at that stage in my life, in my career, that I would even be offered something at the network? So I put no value or no burden in an age. I really do believe age is just a number. I do think that 40 is unusual to be starting as a reporter. I will acknowledge that, but I don't think that it's a barrier. There's a great book out now called Roar by Michael Clinton, who happens to be, I used to work with him here at Hearst. I'm at the offices of Oprah Daily. I have another job here. Michael Clinton was one of our top publishers. And he says, people shouldn't focus on age appropriate. They should focus on person appropriate. And I think that is the best advice of all. Keep in mind, Walter Cronkite had to retire from CBS at the age of 65, Ashleigh. I'm 66. So I wouldn't even be at CBS News if we still had those antiquated rules.
And I think back when I started, I don't know that I would have had a career at 66. It's pretty tricky. There were this many women, and maybe that many still exist, but boy, oh boy. So this last one I want you to hear is about why we did this anyway. This mentoring session, Rising Tide, it's important because it's what John F. Kennedy said. It lifts all boats, okay? The value in mentoring others, it lifts you too. So it's a great thing to do if you're out there. It doesn't have to be in media, of course, but help others because you will be better. Believe it or not, it's magic, whether it's karma or whatever you want to ascribe to it. And Gayle had something great to say about that. This really does take a village to do well in this business. It's a team sport. Here's what she had to say about that.
Months into my first full-time anchor job in a newsroom, where for the first time, I'm one of the older, more experienced people. So it had me wondering, did mentoring and making the time for it naturally happen as your career evolved? Or was there a point in your career where you became very intentional about it? Awesome question. I love it.
I just know, Ashleigh, that nobody makes it alone. I just know along the way, somebody has to help you. I don't care who you are. Somebody has to help you. Somebody has to give you a break. Somebody has to see something in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself. And so whenever anybody is really serious and wants to know about this business, I do take the time. I remember the people that were helpful to me. You never forget Ralph Begletter, Pam Coulter, J.C. Hayward. To this day, I can still remember their names. Bruce Johnson. I can still remember those people that helped me. So when I see somebody who really wants to know about this business, and not for nothing, I love what we get to do. I still love this friggin' job. So
That's fun.
Oh, I think so. I think so. I say all the time, we have a front row seat to history and we get to tell people about it. I think that's very cool. It's a big responsibility and it's a big privilege at the same time. So when she says you're the only one that answered me or one of two, I don't know who that is, because I do that a lot to people who I think are really serious about wanting to know about this business.
She's great. And that you can go to the website and you can see her whole session. It's newsnationnow.com/rising tide. And guess what? You can be a part of it. January 12th, our next VIP mentor is Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN chief medical correspondent, real-life neurosurgeon, also host of the podcast Chasing Life. Can't wait for that. January 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern. Register now. Go to newsnationnow.com/rising tide, or just Google Rising Tide and Ashleigh. You'll get there. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.